In 2015, we introduced the option for Year 7 and 8 students to bring devices to Whenuapai School. Our motivation was that 21st century instruction and development of digital literacy skills is necessary for 21st century learning. As a team of 3 Year 7 and 8 teachers in 2016, we've trialled a number of initiatives this term using technology with the goal in mind to maximise what we have in order to engage our students and accelerate achievement through personalised learning. In 2016, e-learning with a future focus continues to be an area of growth throughout our team. We endeavour to challenge students with a personalised learning experience which fosters innovation and creativity. In our environment, we want students to actively engage in a cohesively integrated curriculum, to access information and apply it in solving authentic problems. The use of learning devices is one way we hope to achieve this vision. After completing my literature review on innovative learning environments, I now have new knowledge and a deeper understanding of the core elements that make up an ILE. In 2013, the OECD published a report on innovative learning environments. This report discusses how quality learning is a combination of 4 core elements. In 2013, the OECD devised a model to show these core elements surrounding the pedagogical core as shown in Figure 1. Looking at this model, the use of learning devices to assist in personalising learning falls into the core element of resources, as this includes digital materials. However, when thinking deeper about this and reflecting on modern-day 21st century learning, ICT, digital materials and technology enters into this model through all core elements, as it no longer just provides resources. Technology is what now assists us in creating and using knowledge, connecting and networking as both teachers and learners, and developing 21st century competencies. As stated by Instance and Calls, technology may recast all the elements of the pedagogic core. Technology can contribute to resetting a number of the standard characteristics restructuring education. Through various reflective discussions as a team, we have a hunch that the motivation and engagement of our Year 7 and 8 students has greatly increased. We believe that we've taken away a barrier to learning for many of our students by introducing one-to-one devices.
It's a more fun way to learn and takes less time to get work done, so you can do more in a 6-hour day. There are heaps of learning opportunities online than just research, such as sharing with other students and giving them the opportunity to give feedback and feed forward.
This inquiry plan is very purposeful for us to gain both qualitative and quantitative data to see if and what shifts have been made in the engagement of our students and if our aim of acceleration of progress in their literacy levels is occurring. I have chosen literacy as a core curriculum area to focus our data gathering on, as we currently use devices during all of our learning sessions in both reading and writing. I've used our inquiry context of where we are in place and time over the past term to purposefully teach students to write for a purpose rather than to a specific genre. Students are also taught research and note-taking skills to assist them with their learning through this context. As I reflect on Term 1, I now have many questions which have helped bring about my inquiry focus. Through my background research and my hunch about engagement and motivation being increased through the use of ICT, I've now been able to focus my research question, and I'll be following a teaching as inquiry model to gather data on how we are using ICT for learning to increase student motivation, engagement and achievement in literacy. This inquiry project will primarily engage with my target group. This is a group of Year 8 students who have been using one-to-one devices in their literacy and inquiry since joining our team as Year 7s in 2015. The Year 7 and 8 classroom teachers, our e-learning lead teacher, whānau and the wider community. In order to gather data about motivation and engagement of my group, my first step is to get the students to complete a learning map based on their learning using technology to assist and support. This is my opportunity to also gather information from my 2 Māori students about how they learn best and what supports them with their learning.
And I also learn quite well with my computer. It has my Google Drive on it, so all my work is on there. It has a dictionary, so I can research stuff on it, and I use it for homework quite a bit.
I will then use a Google form to survey and collect my qualitative data and examine these students' motivation and engagement. In order to collect my quantitative data, I will use a range of standardized assessment in reading and writing in which I can analyze to look at the rates of progress of individual students. I will use the Teaching as Inquiry model from the New Zealand curriculum as shown in Figure 2 to focus my inquiry. The focusing inquiry establishes a baseline and a direction. I will use all available information to determine what my students have already learned and what they need to learn next, and how ICT is supporting this learning. This is such an integral stage in the inquiry process as it also focuses on what is important and therefore worth spending time on, given where my students are at. Māori culture is an integral component of educational interactions in New Zealand education. Knowing the students' backgrounds, their backstory, assists teachers in improving educational outcomes for Māori students. In my target group, I have 2 students who identify as New Zealand Māori. As stated in Kahikatea, we know that Māori students do much better when education reflects and values their identity, language and culture. Kahikatea highlights crucial factors that must exist for Māori students to reach their full potential. This includes strong engagement and contribution from parents, whānau, hapu, iwi, Māori organisations, communities and businesses. When thinking about kaupapa Māori and considering the principle of whānau, the use of learning maps is providing research which supports us in acknowledging the relationships that Māori have to one another and to the world around them. We know the importance as teachers to nurture and foster these relationships and build on these to support the learning of these students in our environments. The kaupapa Māori principle of ata, growing respect for relationships, and ako, Māori culturally preferred pedagogy, are also highlighted through the use of learning maps as we learn more about the individual's relationships with how they learn best. The next step in the focusing inquiry, I have identified the outcomes that I want my students to achieve. These include having increased motivation and engagement in literacy, alongside making accelerated progress through the year. I've identified these outcomes as I believe motivation and engagement is a necessity for accelerated progress to take place. Using the focusing inquiry, I'm able to consider how my target students are doing in relation to these set outcomes and question what my students need to learn next in order to achieve these outcomes. In the teaching inquiry, I have focused on the use of technologies to enhance students' learning since the start of 2015. These include BYOD, Google Apps in Education and Hapara Dashboard, Kahoots, Tinkercad, 3D modelling and printing, movie making, and student blogs to document the learning process and keep a reflective diary of learning. This part of the inquiry, I will focus on asking questions about how well these current technological resources and strategies are working and whether there may be others that may be more successful. During this phase of the inquiry, I will seek feedback from other teachers who are part of our learning community network, from other schools, and from our MindLab Google Plus community to see if there are other resources or strategies that they can suggest that have worked well during literacy learning. I will also have an opportunity to look into the research literature to see what has worked well in other contexts. During this phase of my inquiry, I'll have the opportunity to plan using the ITL rubrics for ICT for Learning. These rubrics were designed and tested for the Innovative Teaching and Learning Research Project. These rubrics highlight to me the importance of teaching ICT so that it can be used in more powerful ways to construct knowledge or to design knowledge-based products. The last step of this phase is to gather evidence about whether the technological resources and strategies I've been using are working for my target group of students. This is where I will use a Google form to survey my students to find out about their motivation and engagement towards ICT and literacy. The learning inquiry will take place both during and after the teaching of these target students, as I'll be able to monitor their progress and through plenaries and reflection be able to gauge how motivated and engaged in the learning these students are. This will be an opportunity for both the students and myself to self-reflect on learning, motivation and engagement. I'll be able to use this reflective information to help inform my decision of what to do next and next learning steps for these students to ensure continued improvement in student achievement reflects accelerated progress for this target group. During this stage in the inquiry process, another opportunity for collaboration with colleagues will be hugely beneficial, as sharing different perspectives, ideas, knowledge and experiences will help support me with my inquiry. At this stage of the inquiry, I'll use a range of assessment approaches in order to collect and analyse data to see the rates of progress made by this target group of students. These standardised assessment tools are what my baseline data has been set from during Term 1. I'll then have the opportunity to analyse and interpret the information to consider what my next step will be. As stated by the Teaching as Inquiry model, the key question for the learning inquiry is, what happened as a result of the teaching and what are the implications for future teaching? These two related questions then lead the inquiring teacher back to another round of inquiry. Is there something I need to change? What are the next steps for learning? The data and evidence collected from this inquiry will be integral in assisting us to plan and inform next steps in several ways, including looking at what is working or not working in terms of the programs we're using and the ways in which we use them, looking at what is working in other schools and using this as a basis to trial new ideas and initiatives, the chance to implement BYOD further down the school, starting with our Year 5 and 6s, the chance to inform our parents and wider community of our findings, and the findings could also be shared with colleagues further down the school who have school Chromebooks and iPads in their classes. We'll be able to inform them of online tools that have assisted our students in their learning and literacy.
Having a device helps us with our learning because you can read books online and articles rather than just having heavy books that probably won't have enough information and don't usually excite you. I think most people are engaged because we live in a world full of technology and it's increasing every day. But it really depends on what type of person you are. Technology doesn't suit everyone. If you prefer the old style of learning and it suits your needs, that's why we have textbooks, but we really enjoy the option.